Last night, 7 p.m., sitting at the coffee table with Vet Bill. All I want to do is talk to Damian Sassower. Finally, he's here. Eswar Prasad, I read every word of his article, Pre-Trump Madness, the giant of EM, foreign exchange academics, Cornell and Brookings. And Prasad says, this is not about a weak dollar. It's about the strong currencies in the Damian Sassower world. What does strong Malaysia, strong Poland, a 116 euro, what does that do to these nations?
Well, I mean, a stronger currency for them makes their exports that much more expensive for consumers here in the U.S. And, you know, whether or not we're going to continue consuming remains to be seen. I think for me, Tom, it's this persistent dollar weakness and how long it can be a feature of financial markets. Can it go on forever? I mean, in my 30 years plus of being in the business, I've been accustomed to, operating in a world of dollar strength, even though, I invest in emerging markets or my constituents do, right? So, you always kind of conditioned that the dollar was going to strengthen despite what you do. And this is a very, very different environment. And I was just, talking to, and this is IMF week. We have the IF meetings this week. And if you just look at the agenda and everything that people are talking about, I mean, is this really a shift in sentiment? We're going to get a read of that this week with some PMI data coming out globally.
But is it just linked to Trump policy? And if Besant forces the president to renege on his theories, do we get the mother of all whiplashes?
I mean, that's a risk. And look, I would say this. Look at China as a barometer of what happened here. When President Xi kind of took over and started putting in his red lines and basically talking about his war on the shadow banks, of which another trust, a huge billion-dollar trust in China is about to default AVIC overnight. And so, you've got all this stuff going on. And President Xi is not going to ride to the rescue of the markets domestically. He hasn't ridden to the, rescue of wealthy Chinese households. And so if you're seeing a lot of that kind of reverberate here in the U.S., what does that mean for the U.S. dollar? The same thing it probably means for the China yuan. It's going to decline relative to everything else, and that's what we're seeing here.
The Bloomberg Dollar Index down almost 8% from the January high. Where's all this money going?
Euro. I mean, look, if you look at the winners this year, it's been anything Euro-linked. So it's been Eastern Europe, it's been Romania, it's been Poland, Czech, Hungary, it's been,
They're
Western Europe.
selling dollars to buy Romanian...
Stokey, Noki, the Nordics. Yeah,
Really?
I mean, these are, and remember, they all have, in the case of Sweden, it's highly leveraged. It's an open economy. In the case of Norway, they're an oil export. In the case of Eastern Europe, they manufacture everything that Europe consumes. So, you have all these plays on the Euro strength that are finally kind of, I guess something that people can sink their teeth into. And maybe it's not a week by week or a month by month, but maybe it's a structurally quarter by quarter investment thesis. And a lot of people are getting behind that narrative here, Paul.
All right, so where do you see value out there in your world of emerging markets? Is it a market to look for value?
So I'm trying to find, you're right, what is quote unquote a safe haven currency in the emerging market complex, and let me tell you, it's not easy. I guess the way where you turn is you turn to the Asian low yielders, right? They are the safest. They don't have the inflationary pressures you might find in Latin America or Eastern Europe, for that matter. But nevertheless, they have low yields, and so you're not really compensated for putting your money there. So where do you turn? I think what you have to do here is you have to diversify your funding base, right? I mean, historically, what we've seen from foreign investors is they invest in the U.S. and they do it unhedged. Well, now you're going to have to start hedging your dollar exposure and doing it pretty aggressively. Yeah. And so, look, I've long been an advocate of funding in a combination of Swiss franc, Japanese yen, dollar, euro, pound, you name it, just kind of spreading your funding risk around. I think more and more investors, specifically U.S. dollar investors, are waking up to the realization that, they're going to need to do that too. And they never had to do that before.
Right. How do you weigh in growth here? The idea that, Karen Moscow has a wonderful vignette of Jerome Powell and, worry, and there's 7 other things, including the Red Sox can't beat the Chicago White Sox. Game at 11 o'clock today, folks. I'll be there.
Knicks tonight.
But Knicks one, yeah. But they tonight, right?
Yeah, tonight. Yeah.
Tonight.
Pistons, yeah. 7.
Bar can't concentrate. That bad. Damian Sassower, just as simple as I can make it, are we just talking about a global growth slowdown?
Look, I've been doing a lot of work on the growth factor in foreign exchange. And, what my analysis has kind of led me to believe is that there's no real way to capture growth, especially in a post-COVID environment. It's been very, very challenging to look for economic surprises in various different markets, to time them appropriately and to make money off of them. However, growth prior to the COVID crisis was a very profitable factor that could drive foreign exchange gains globally. And so we are now believing that with this beta regime era shift, we might see the growth factor reemerge once again. So we're watching it really, really closely. We're watching economic surprise indices across the world to try and see if, currency markets are going to finally react when a PMI data print comes in more positive than the market otherwise suggests, or if unemployment comes in more positive, or if industrial production, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's really important today to start kind of revisiting the fundamentals, Tom. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am.
Is this a bear market for the U.S. dollar? Because I haven't seen one. I don't think in my. I don't know when.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I haven't seen. I haven't seen this in a long, long time, Tom. I mean, look, a lot of people are out there on the tape for the better part of the last few days comparing the United States to an emerging market. Further thing couldn't be from the truth, right? But what is going on here? If you have to just kind of take a note out of Trump's page book, and he's going to look back on this and he's going to say, well, I meant for this to happen, right? This was part of my plan. My plan was to weaken the dollar. And if that is indeed true, then all this stuff, the war on the Fed, the war on Jerome Powell, maybe he's just trying to weaken the dollar. Maybe that's what he's going to lean on after the fact. But your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I think he's making it up as he goes along, and I think the markets see that.
You're in Washington. Georgieva's having breakfast.
Yes, she is.
One of her 4 breakfasts today.
Jason Wu, the whole team.
What's Kristalina Georgieva's biggest challenge right now with EM? Is it Argentina or is it something I don't know?
I think it's existential. I think Kristalina Georgieva's biggest challenge here is how can she address all these critical issues globally while placating a Trump administration, right? Because their funding is in large part tied to the U.S., right? It's not just Europe, the IMF. So, you have to kind of take a step back and say, oh my God, are we really getting to the crux here of the issues the IMF needs to address? If you look at their agenda, it's very, how do I say this, blueprint. There's no, when you see these panels that they're having during IMF week, they give you a little bit of flair. We're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about the dollar.
I'm doing those panels.
I'm telling you, Tom, it's so like cookie cutter. There's not one, qualifying adjective when they're describing these panel sessions. I don't know what anyone's preparing, how they're going to get up there, what they're going to even talk about this week. It's unbelievable.
I can't talk to him, Paul. Exit Damian and take us out. I'm too emotionally distraught. Sassower throwing me under the Georgieva bus.
On the Georgieva bus. Damian Sassower, Chief EM Credit Strategist, Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio.